Okay, let's go.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. Make sure you hit that notification bell to all so you'll be notified of all the new content that I'm pushing. And with that, today I'm glad to be home. For one, I was on a trip, went to Connecticut. Never been all the way back east, Midwest. You know, grew up out west and then lived in the Midwest, and then never been on the East Coast or the East. So I drove from Ohio to Connecticut. Definitely different. But anyway, I'm glad to be home. That's why I haven't put out any videos. I haven't been on YouTube really. I did do a live from the hotel. It was freezing. I did it from my phone. I couldn't read my phone. I had to put my glasses on, which I just took off because I was looking at my phone. But now I'm home in my office. I can sit here on my big screen and see everything, and got my mic and everything's better. I'm more comfortable. Anyways, today's a personal story I want to share because there's an ending, that a sad ending to this story that never was solved. Nobody was held accountable. Nobody would give any type of information as to what happened. They kept it all hush hush and only came out with one verdict. Let's just put it that way. So I'm going to talk about this story here. So if you've watched any of my older videos, I think I talk and on my other channel, Criminal to Cop, which, like I said, I haven't really been participating on uploading videos and things like that because I want to get, it's an autobiography video. I call it a videography of my life. And I want to make sure that I get like 30 chapters done, because I was releasing chapter after chapter, and then I would like not be doing a video for a week or something. And if anybody gets into it, it's like reading a book. You want to know what happened next. And I wasn't able to put all my time and effort into it. So I'm going to wait till I get to about 30 chapters. I believe I have like 4. I didn't take them down, the other videos, but I did put them on private on my Criminal to Cop channel. And that is so I can get up to that. And that way, when somebody starts watching my videography, autobiography of my life, they won't be like, okay, when's the next one coming out? You know what I mean? And I don't want to put it out there and then like somebody gets into it, and because I love like documentaries and things like that. I really get into them, and I'll watch them for hours. I don't care how tired I get. I'll just keep watching. But I just didn't want people to get and then me not make a video for a week or two, you know, before they know the next chapter. Oh, wow, this is how that one ended. What happened? You know what I mean? Type thing. So anyways, this is a story, personal story that happened to me in my life. And I have a hard time sharing it, and I've never shared it. And it's because it's regarding my cousin. And, you know, we grew up we had a big family on my mom's side of the family. My mom's side of the family was Portuguese, and we grew up a very big family. I had lots of cousins, aunts, uncles, but we were all close, very close. And this is, in particular, the cousin that I talk about in my videography, and I also have done some interviews. I just did an interview. I know I wasn't going to say anything before, but I did an interview with Ian Bick. And I even talk about my cousin there because I looked up to my cousin. He was like 4 years older than me. I believe, and he was like everybody respected him because he was a fighter, a scrapper. He was a party guy. He was the life of the party. He was just he was all around genuine person. But he had a crazy side to him, but ever since I was young and I started getting into drinking and doing drugs and running the streets, I'd always try to hang out with my cousin. Again, he was older than me, so we would get high smoking weed or drink, things like that. And then, but he was, we didn't have cell phones back then. We're talking 1980, 1981, no cell phones. So he was never home. So trying to get a hold of him was hard. He would just show up and be like, hey, you want to go here? We go do this or whatever. But that's who I looked up to. Like because everybody else, like, I don't know. He was just one of them guys. He was well respected. Let's just put it that way. And I wanted to, I don't know. I was his cousin, so you know what I mean? But this story takes a wild twist and a wild turn. And again, I've never shared this. When this happened, I've talked to his sisters. He has 3 sisters. They're 3 of my cousins. Both my aunt and uncle had already passed, his mom and dad. And, there was a lot of questions and that I couldn't answer. And some things I really didn't want to answer because I didn't want to put it out there, his business out there. So anyways, I looked up to him. We lost touch because, we both were born and raised in Salinas. I moved away after I got locked up and got released. I moved to Ohio, and then he was living in Sacramento, and then he was in and out of prison and jail all the time. He got really bad on drugs and was doing some stupid shit. But my mom never liked me hanging around with him. No, she did not like it. She'd always say, I don't like you being around him. Even though he's my cousin, that was my mom's sister's son. But she knew what he was about, and she did not want me hanging around with him. So she'd always tell me, but I did it anyway. I was a teenager, and I didn't listen. So, let's get this story started because it's hard for me still, and this happened 10 years ago. 10 years ago, 11 years ago. So anyways, what I was saying was how we lost touch because I moved to Ohio, and then we had talked a couple of times after I'd left, and then I didn't hear from. So I think 20 years went by, close to 20 years. And I'd ask my mom, I'm like, you ever hear, I'm not going to say his name, but well, I might as well. It's my cousin Billy, I'm going to show you what happened, the newspaper and the news articles and things. So his name was Billy, and I would ask her because my mom still lived in California, and she had moved up north. And I'd always ask her, hey, what happened? She's like, nobody knows. Nobody's seen him. Last I heard, he was in prison. And, that was about it. My mom just really didn't get into it. And she just, knew my cousin was trouble. And I had been in so much trouble. So that's the way it was. And I'm sharing this with you because, like I said, I suffer from PTSD and things like that, of anxiety, depression, and so it's good to share it. And I've never shared the story, and so we had there's this lapse, and then you connect with people on social media. Facebook was the big thing back then, or what was the other social media before Facebook? Shoot, I forget the name of it. But anyways, he was never like that type person. He was a like go out in the woods type person. I remember one time I dropped my cousin off, in Salinas, because there's mountains, mountain ranges, and he had me drop him off, and he had like a rifle, a fishing pole and shit, and then like a tent and a backpack, and he'd be like, drop me off over here, you know what I mean? And then he would just go out there and be out there for a week or whatever in the wilderness. That's his type of person he was. He could live off the wilderness. So let's get back to what I was talking about. So we lost touch, and we just nothing happened. Well, so my mom passed away in 2010. Rest in peace, Mom. God bless my mom. She was a good woman, very good. She was my rock. She honestly was. She was my best friend. She never judged me, and she was always there for me no matter what I did wrong, no matter what no matter what the situation was. My mom was always there for me and never judged me. And so she got sick, and I left work. I had to take a leave of absence, a medical leave of absence and I was gone for 2 months. And I went out there because my mom was sick and she had a terminal illness. And I went out there to take care of my mom because my brother, who lived like 2 miles away, was not. He had a wife, kids, and all grown adult kids too. And one was a nurse or an STNA, whatever, nursing assistant. But anyways, that's another story. So I go out there to take care of my mom and and just spend time with my mom. And but about 2 months after I came back, because I told my mom, look, I got to get back. And I had kids, my older daughters, that I had to pay child support on. And you know what I mean? I was paying $800 a month. And I was like, I got to get back to work, and plus my work, I didn't want to mess, I don't want to mess my job up. At that time I was an investigator, and I had cases that I was working. I had other people I had to take over and different stuff. So I had, so my mom passed in 2010, and then about a year later, before that, but my oldest brother was the executor of my mom's estate. And he said, look, one of you, or I have two brothers. So my other brother, my middle brother, one of you two is going to have to come out here so we can settle this estate. We got to go through. And he goes, because I haven't touched anything, and we got to get this settled. Well, my middle brother was in the Air Force, so he was stationed overseas, and he was stationed everywhere. So he couldn't do it. And I said, yeah, I'm going to come out there. So I had taken some time off. And before I went out there, bam, I got a friend request from somebody I didn't know. And it ended up being my cousin's girlfriend, this girl that woman he had met. And then she made him a Facebook, and then we got exchanged phone numbers. And then I had talked to her first, like she was talking to me. Really nice lady, really nice woman. And she had a house. Well, she had two houses, one in Idaho and one in Nevada. In Fallon, Nevada. So it was about 4 hours away from my mom's house in California. So I had, she kept saying, you know what, why don't you come here when when you got to come out? You're more than welcome to stay here. And I have, 3 vehicles. You can take one of my vehicles and go to California and handle your business. And you're more than welcome to stay here and this, that, and the other. And at that time, like I said, and then to this day, it still affects me. My mom, losing my mom, it's really affected me. So I ended up resigning from my job as an investigator and going back out west, and this time like in Nevada, and then to settle my mom's estate in California. And my cousin was doing really good. He wasn't drinking. She said he was clean. He wasn't doing drugs. He had been all this stuff. They had been together for, I don't know, a year prior to that. And he lived with her. And then I was talking to him, and like, she's like, come here, and you're more than welcome to stay as long as you want. You can come here. And, because I had been divorced twice, and just a lot of stuff being an investigator, and the PTSD started affecting my life. And she's like, you can come out here and start your life over, things like that. So I go out there, and really nice house and a brand new home and a newer neighborhood. And he was doing really good, man. It was so good to see him after like 20 years, and his girlfriend was just really awesome. And she took me in like family, like her and I were, she was like, I always called her my cousin. She'd always dress me as her cousin to other people. And yes, I'm getting there, guys. I want to tell the story the way it is, the way it happened. So I'm just giving you the background. So so I'm staying there, and I'm hanging out and spending time with my cousin, but he was still drinking. And then I had another cousin, which was her brother. So he called me, it was just a big family thing. And he was staying there because he was going through a divorce, and he was from San Diego, Escondido, from San Diego. And he wanted to stay there for a little while and just to get away while he was going through his divorce. And his name was Larry, and he was a cool dude, man. I met him, and we just hit it off too. He was just cool. So I found out after being there for a couple of days that, like, she didn't allow smoking cigarettes in the house, although she smoked cigarettes in the house. He wasn't allowed to smoke. Like, she was really trying to keep on him about everything, because his health was not the greatest because of all the drugs he had done his whole life, of doing drugs and drinking. He just wasn't there. He was not in good, but he was looking good and feeling better because, he wasn't using and wasn't drinking. So I thought, and smoking. So every day we'd go for walks, and we would walk down to this store where one of their friends worked at, and it was like a little convenience store. So we would go for a walk and go walk over there every day, and he would go buy those little, like airplane bottles of liquor. So, the little tiny bottles of liquor. And he would get that banana 99 or whatever it is, or vodka. And he would get like 2 or 3 of those little things. And he would get a pack of cigarettes. And then he would have, because I smoked cigarettes, and he would give me the cigarettes and say, hey, hold on to these for me. And he would drink vodka because then she wouldn't smell it on him. You know what I mean? So, like, literally, we would go to the store. He would slam like 2 or 3 of those little vodkas, and then he would smoke a couple cigarettes. And I don't know. It was funny. I mean, at the time, it was like, but she was trying to keep him on the straight and narrow because she knew what, he had been through. And they met in Gardnerville, where that's where she was living, and that's where her daughter lived and stuff like that. Nevada, Gardnerville, Nevada. So anyway, everything's good. Everything's going good. I started working at, eventually I got back into law enforcement after about a year, and I ended up working in Reno, and I met my kids' mother. Not, I have 5 kids, so I have 2 adult daughters from previous marriages and relationship, and then I have 3 children with my kids' mom. So I met her there in Nevada, in Fallon, at the casino. And so we ended up moving in together. I moved out of the house. She ended up getting pregnant with my middle son. And we lived in this apartment that was upstairs above like this shop. And so you had to go up the steps, and then up this way, and there was a door, and it was an apartment. It was a 2-bedroom apartment up there. It was really nice. And it was in it was in an alley though, but right off the street. When you turn down this alley, it was right there. And it wasn't very far away. I was like maybe a half a mile from my cousin's house. So his girlfriend, like I said, we were real close. She used to go over there for dinner. She'd have us over there for dinner, everything. I mean, she would give you the, whatever, the shirt off her back if she could, she would help you in any way. She was just that type of person, good person. And the same with my cousin. My cousin was the same way. Well, they would go up to Idaho and stay up there at their house out in it was like a cabin, and it was way out in the woods. And they would stay there for a while in the summertime and then come back. And then my cousin stayed one summer, and said, I'm not coming back. I'm staying up here, because he liked the wilderness. Well, I ended up coming back. And my cousin, she used to the only thing she ever did was she smoked weed. Okay. And this is my cousin Billy's girlfriend. All she ever did was smoke weed. And then she would take some pills, some pain pills. But she wasn't like really bad on them. So I move in with my girlfriend at the time. And like I said, she's pregnant, and my son's born, my middle son's born. And then we have my oldest son. And so we're living in this 2-bedroom apartment above this shop. And he used to come over all the time. He rode one of them scooters with the little 50cc engines on the back of them, because he didn't have a license or anything. He never got his license. His license was, I don't know how long it was suspended for, but anyway, he used to ride this scooter, a little 50cc scooter. And that was his thing. And then he would ride it over to the house and hang out. And then he would bring his little, shots, his little bottles of vodka, and we would sit there and chop it up all the time. And then one time, for Christmas, we went to California for Christmas and to be with my kid's mom's family. And then, I never went back around my family that often in Salinas, because when I left Salinas, I kind of just, I don't know, just a lot of bad things happened in Salinas, and I just, a lot of times I just didn't want to go there. But I had family all over California, Northern California, and then Salinas, and just everywhere, and other states too. But anyway, we give him the key to the apartment and tell him, hey, just watch our stuff, watch out, check on stuff for us. And he's like, yeah, no problem, So when we got back, we were gone for a week. And when we came back, he came over and gave me the keys to the apartment. And then he was like, hey man. And I noticed he was acting real different, just different, like he was on something. And because I know, I grew up since I was a kid, around him. I know. And he had been clean for so long, you know what I mean? Other than his little vodka bottles and smoking cigarettes, that was it. That was his only niche. But no, he was acting different, strange. And I was like, man, something's not right with Billy. I was telling at that time, it was my girlfriend, my kid's mom. And I was like, something's not right. He's acting really weird. And, I don't know how to explain it. If you've been around people that do drugs, and you'll know. Because his drug of choice, like he's the very first one when I was 14 that turned me on to coke. And then he was into coke for the longest time. And then he got into smoking coke, rocking it up. Not crack. He was freebasing coke back, in the 80s. And so I didn't know he had told me about it, but that his big thing was meth. He was on meth, and he was doing a shit ton of meth, and that's why he was in and out of prison. He was doing stupid shit, robberies and whatever, and drugs, and caught with drugs. So anyway, I'm telling her, I'm like, and she noticed it too, and she, yeah, he's acting really weird. So I'm like, what's up, man? Like, he wouldn't talk in front of nobody else, but if it was just him and I, he would talk. I'm like, what's up, man? And he's like, dude, this chick that, again, his girlfriend is getting pain pills from and her weed from, has got some meth, dude, and it's really good. And I'm like, dude, you've been clean for so long, man. Why'd you? And he goes, oh, I'm good, man. I don't need to do it all. I just did a little bit. You know what I mean? I'm like, yeah, well, I can already tell you. You're like, you're not acting the same, He was acting a little crazy and shit. Like, cause like I told you, growing up, he was a crazy dude. People didn't mess with him. You know what I mean? And, but anyway, I'm like, dude, just, you got to be careful with that shit. You know what I mean? And he's like, yeah, but his girlfriend's name was Carrie. And that was again, like we're cousins too. We're like family, And she was like, or he was like, don't tell Carrie, you know what I mean? She doesn't know that the girl that she's getting that got me this stuff. And I was like, all right, cool. Well, dude, you just got to make sure oh no, I'm just doing it a couple times, man. And I'm done. I'm straight. Well, you know how that works. So at the time I'm working in Reno, I get a job, in law enforcement, as working patrol in Reno. And, I was working 412s, and I was working 412s. I was off 3 days. And I would work 4 p.m. to 4 a.m. in the morning, and it's an hour drive. So I'd always have to leave at like 2:30 in the afternoon. I would get home at like 5:15 in the morning. I would get home, and then I would usually, eat, try to get some sleep, because I had to turn right back around and get up and go. So he knows I'm working up there, and I'm patrol, and because he knew that I got into law enforcement, and he was pretty cool with. He was proud of me for that, because all the shit that I did, and when I was younger and stuff like that. And even though people do shit, like he was in and out of prison, it didn't matter. So it got worse real quick. And I honestly don't think it was meth. I think it was bath salts. Just from what he was talking about and the way he was acting. I mean, he was acting crazy. And then his girlfriend, Carrie, was calling me. She had come over and said, I don't know what's going on, but he's acting freaking nuts. And she had a gun safe in her garage that was locked up. And she had the keys hidden. And she told me where the keys were, but she's like, she always did it because he was a felon. and she didn't want him, to get in trouble, for the guns or whatever. Even though he was on paper. Now, I don't know how legit that was or not, being a PO, former PO, that he was on paper in California, and they knew where he was at, or he was in Nevada, and they didn't care. They just told him, don't come back here. As long as you don't come back here, you don't get arrested, and they ship you back here. You know what I mean? Just stay there in Nevada. They didn't want him there, because all the shit he'd been in. They were tired of him, I guess. I don't know. That's what the story was. So he's acting crazier and crazier and crazier. Now he knows my job. Okay. And he also knows that I keep a gun right next to my bed on my nightstand. Actually it was behind the nightstand right there so I could grab it, But the kids, didn't. I'd never leave it there, only at nighttime, and it was behind, like I said. I had it mounted on the back of my nightstand so I could reach it, And Nevada's a no, you can stand your ground state, And also, like, you could just drive 5 minutes out of town and go shoot out in the desert. People just, that's the way it was there. It was pretty cool. And people all carry guns there. Like, you go into Walmart. First time I went to Walmart there, I was like, what the hell, man? All these people's got guns on their side. It's like a rancher town. A lot of ranches and stuff outside of town. So anyways, let's get back to that story. So he's acting crazier and crazier. He knows what I do for a living, where I work. He knows I carry a gun anyway. And I have, guns. So he starts getting worse. And like I said, his girlfriend, Carrie, calls me and she's like, I don't know what to do with him. He's nuts. She kicked him out a couple of times. And one time he came over, she kicked him out. I let him stay at the house on the couch. Then the other times was not good because he was going to his friends. Now his friend, I known since I was a kid, and it was his best friend. And they grew up together. Like they were really tight best friends. But it just happened to be he moved from California to Reno. He was living in Reno, up in I think it was Spanish Springs. He had a nice house. He had his own. I think he was doing commercial heating and air conditioning. So he was making good money, had a nice house, and my cousin went over to his house a couple times, and the reason was because of drugs. And he told me afterwards, he's like, yeah, Ryan's got, the hookup, and he's selling, and, I'm helping him out, and he lets me stay there. And when Carrie kicks me out or whatever. But before that, like, everything was cool, and he never got in no trouble. Him and his girlfriend got along great. And then he just, like I said, after he got a hold of whatever it was when we were in California, he said it was meth. I swear it was bath salts, but because the way he acted, I know what people act like on meth. It affects everybody differently, but from my experience with all the different kinds of drugs personally, and then actually seeing people on shit, I thought it was bath salts. That was my opinion, and, but, I don't know. So anyways, one morning, I got off of work. Like I said, I get off, and it was like 7 a.m. Okay. And there's a knock at the door. Now, the way it worked was, like I told you go up, the steps went up again, and then right there's your door, and that's it. There's no like deck right there or anything. There's just a stoop, and there's the front door to our apartment. Now, when you walk in the front door, the kitchen's to your left. The living room's right here on your right. Basically, you're in the living room when you open up the door. Basically, that's the start of the living room. But straight back is a bedroom door right to your right. And to your left, there's a bedroom door. There's a bedroom. There's a bedroom here and a bedroom here. My kids' bedroom, so I got 2 boys at this time. Their bedroom's right here. And I think my son was, I want to say he was a year old or 2 years old. He was 2 years old maybe. And my oldest boy would have been like 6. I think like 6 years old. Anyway, so there's a knock at the door. And like I said, at this point, I hadn't heard from him for a few days, other than his girlfriend, Carrie, telling me he's crazy. I told him to get the hell out. He won't leave. This is what he's doing. He's not sleeping. She said he hadn't slept for 2 weeks. And, meth, you don't sleep. And I know people go on binges and whatever, but 2 or 3 weeks, that's a long ass time to not sleep. And so she was on to him, and she, like I said, she had kicked him out several times. But she was really serious, like, I can't do it anymore. She was telling me this, and I'm like, yeah, and I kept trying to talk to him, dude, but he was just getting crazier and crazier. And he didn't want to hear about it when you talked to him about it. So he comes, so there's a knock at the door at 7:00 in the morning. My girlfriend, my kids' mom at the time, worked together. She's in bed, and I'm like, who in the hell's that at 7 in the morning, knocking at the door? So my first instinct normally would have been, I would have grabbed my gun and went up to the door. And you know what I mean? That's the way I would have went to see who was at the door, especially at 7 in the morning. And like I said, I get home at like 5:15 in the morning, so I wasn't asleep, but maybe an hour. So I was kind of half out of it because I'm only an hour's sleep, working at 14 and a half hours, because hour and a half to get there at work, and an hour home, hour and 15 minutes home. And working 12 hours. So I was tired. I'm always, those days wore me out. And so I get up. I didn't grab my gun, but I did look out the window in the kitchen because you could see the front door. And it was my cousin. So I didn't think nothing of it. So I said, they must have got another fight. You know what I mean? So I open up the door, and my bedroom door is open. Not all the way, but it's like cracked, like, halfway, whatever. Because she was asleep. I thought my girlfriend at the time was asleep. And my kids are asleep in the bedroom right next to me. So he walks. So I open up the door. I say, hey, man, what's up? And he puts a gun right to my forehead. 45. And I'm like, hey, dude, whoa, what the fuck's going on, dude? And I thought he was, messing around, which you don't mess around like that. And he's never done anything like that. Okay? He never messed around you don't play around like that. But he knows that I have guns, and he knows I got a gun next to my bed. But I'm sitting there in my boxers, no shirt, no nothing. I just got my boxers on. But he had the gun pushed right on my forehead. He's like, motherfucker, I know you got money. And he's like, and he wanted money, and he wanted, and I'm going to tell you right now, if anybody, and I know a lot of people have seen this and experienced this, when there's nobody home anymore up here, and they're in that killer mode, and I've seen it, and I know other people have seen it, like in prison or wherever, there's nobody there. Their eyes are black. It's like, there's nobody home. Like, there's no, so he's serious. And he's been up for, at this time, 3 weeks. And I'm like going, what the fuck do I do? I'm thinking she heard all this, my girlfriend, and grabs my gun, you know what I mean? Or something. My kids, again, you walk in the door, bedroom here. When you go through the living room, there's bedroom here. My kids in my bedroom. And he's got the gun pushed right on my forehead, and then he put it to my temple, and then he moved it around. You know what I mean? He moved it around, and he was the whole time. Then he starts talking about my mom and his mom, which they were sisters. My mom and his mom were sisters. And about my stepmom, which he never met, because that was my dad's wife in Ohio, and that my mom and my stepmom had the same name. I mean, he's just talking crazy shit, but he wanted money. And look, I'm thinking at this point, like, all this shit's going through my head, you know. I've had to fight. I mean, I've taken to self-defense. I've had to fight in law enforcement. I used to fight all the time when I was a kid. But when people are like that and there's nobody home and they got a gun right at your head, I mean, there's different. And I got kids right behind me. Like, so where I'm standing at, if he was to shoot, it'd go right in the kids' room or our bedroom, wherever. Okay. I didn't know my girlfriend woke up because, you know, he was being kind of loud. Thankfully, the kids didn't wake up. And I'm glad she didn't come out because something might have happened. He might have triggered her and he might have done something. I don't know. So she was standing at the door. He didn't, you know, listening. And she saw what happened or what was going on. And he just was rambling on about dumb, crazy shit, dude. He lost it. He lost his mind. And I'm trying to think like, okay, I can fight him, but, and I know techniques and of trying to get a weapon away, but that's not always doesn't always work. And especially if somebody's on drugs or superpower, and the fact that it's freaking right pushed up against my head. Now, if he was just pointing it at me from a distance, that's a different story. But again, I don't want anything to happen to my kids, which is right behind me, my kids' bedroom or her, you know? So, I'm doing everything I can, man, trying to talk him down. I said, look, man, you need money, dude. I'll get you money, but you're going to have to wait, dude. I got to go get it. It's in the bank, you know, which he knew I kept a safe and I had money in a safe. But I told him, I'm like, look, dude, I got to go to the bank and get it. I had put all my money in the bank. And I was just trying everything I could to de-escalate him and just de-escalate the situation. But he was not coming off that gun pointing at my head or against my head. It wasn't just pointed at me from a distance. It was pushed right up against my forehead. And then I said he would move it around here and back and here and back. But he was not letting me move, like, do. So I'm like, man, I can't get my gun. I was going to say, but at this time, you know, when somebody's got a gun to your head, like, it's really hard to think of the right thing to do. Like, I could say I could go. He knew better too. If I would have said, well, the money's in the bedroom, let me go get it, he would have followed me in there with a gun in my head because he knows I got guns and I got a gun right next to my bed. And he knew I would have grabbed my gun and shot him. And, but he wasn't thinking about the kids, which wasn't like him, dude, because he used to always come over and hang out with my boys. And so eventually, I don't know how the hell I did it, but eventually I talked him down. I said, look, I'll get you some money, dude. Because he had got kicked out again. And he wanted to go probably get drugs, whatever, go to his friends in Reno. His best friend girl, since they were kids. And I'm like, I talked him down and he said, you better not fucking say a word to Carrie, because that was her gun. Because remember, she had her guns locked up in a safe in her garage. And she hid the keys. And she told me where the keys, she showed me where the keys were at. Well, he found the keys and he got in the gun safe. So he says, if you say a fucking word, dude, I'm going to come back and kill you. And he just backed out the door. Well, I didn't know that my old lady had called the cops. Okay. Well, of course, they didn't come in any fast amount of time. And they're just right down the road. So he's gone. He leaves. And his girlfriend was asleep at the time. So the cops show up. And she, she was crying, shaking up. I was, trying to get my freaking marbles together. Like, I couldn't believe what just happened. Never in a million years I thought my cousin would ever do that to me. You know what I mean? I was just blown away. I was in shock. But she was like, with the kids, and I was losing it because of the kids too. And I was like, man, what if I would have tried to do this, he would have killed me. He would have killed, you. I don't know what he would have capable, because that was not him that I was talking to. It was not him. If anybody's ever dealt with that situation, I was not talking to him. It was some other demon person. It was a demon. I don't know what it was, but it was not him. And so the cops come, and she had was telling him what happened on the phone when she called. I didn't know she called him. So they asked me what's going on, and I was like, nah, nothing. Me and my cousin had a little argument, and I wasn't trying to get my cousin in trouble. But on the other hand, like I said, he was acting crazy. But I was just like, look, I'm just telling you right now. But she had told him he had a gun to my head and everything. So they're like, look, we need you to press charges against your cousin, for doing that. And I said, oh, I'm not doing that, dude. Not happening. I'm not pressing charges. I said, I'm just telling you right now, if he comes back to my house, I'm fucking shooting him and killing him. Period. Point blank. For doing what he, putting a gun to my head like that and threatening my life, threatening to kill me and trying to rob me. I'm just fucking, I'm not even, no way. Can never trust him, So I said, I'm just telling you guys, I'm warning you now. If he comes back to my house, I'm fucking shooting him and killing him, and my job, you know what I mean? They knew what I did for a living. And they're like, look, man, we just need you. And I would not file a report. I wouldn't do it. I said, you can mark that down as your report. And the report is, if he comes back on my property, next time I'm killing him. Period. So the cops leave. His girlfriend, Carrie, calls me up saying, man, what? He's back in the house again. I told him to leave. He's freaking acting all crazy and all this shit. I said, look, go check your gun safe. And she's like, why? And I said, just do it. Just do this for me, will you? And just go get your keys and go check your gun safe and see if your 45's in there. Okay. So she goes in there and she's looking for her keys. And then here he comes from wherever he was. I don't know if he was in the backyard. I don't know where he was at. But when she called me on the phone, he wasn't in there. And then he goes, "Who the fuck are you talking to?" And then she told him me. And he's like, "Oh, don't believe anything that motherfucker's telling you." And I hadn't said anything to her at this point, except for go check to see if your 45's in the gun case. Or in your gun safe. And she's looking for her keys where she put them at, and they're not there. The keys are gone. So he found the keys. So then they start arguing while I'm on the phone. Where's the fucking keys? And then she's like, what the fuck? Where's my keys to my gun safe? He goes, they're just arguing back and forth. And she's on the phone with me too. And I said, listen, I'm telling you right now, look, for your own safety, I'm telling you right now, you need to just get the hell out of that house, because he just was over here in your car. Like, she was asleep when he did all this. I go, he drove your car over here. Yeah, he got your gun and he had it to my head and was going to kill me and wanted money. And I'm telling you right now, he's not all there upstairs. You just need to get the hell out of that house and come over here. But she's not like that, man. She's tough. You know, so she's yelling at him, telling him to get the fuck out of the house. And well, she was saying, where's the keys? Where's the keys? Where's the keys? Where's the keys? And he's like, he's a fucking liar. I never went over there, and I never touched. I don't know where your keys are. I've never seen them. I don't know where they're at. You know, he's the liar. He's lying. Well, he called his friend Ryan, which was his best friend, lived in Reno, which is an hour drive, to come pick him up. So he comes, picks him up. She eventually finds the keys. He had them stashed. I forget where they were stashed. She finds them, and the gun was gone. The gun was gone. But she had a bunch of guns. But that 45, it was a Ruger 45. I'll never forget it. Man, I remember all her guns, and we went shooting before, but it was right in my freaking face, in my head. You know what I mean? I'll never forget it. And so she's he picks her up and everything's good, you know. I go over there, I hang out with her, you know, bring the kids, we, you know, just trying to, you know, get her. And she's telling me, like, he's been up and he's been acting crazy and he's been doing all this shit. And she's like, I don't know, he's been leaving. I don't know where he's been. I don't know what he's been doing. I don't know. But again, so her daughter, she has an adult daughter. She lives in Gardnerville, and that's where they met, like I told you guys at the beginning of the story. And so he goes and he ends up moving in with his buddy Ryan, and he ends up staying there because he had told me that he was selling. He had a good business. He had a lot of money, a nice house, and plus he had good drugs, you know, and they had been drinking and doing drugs, like I said, since they were teenagers growing up. And so the cops came over to my house again. Like, I don't know, it was like a couple days or something. And the city cops where I lived. And this is a small town. Trying to get me to press charges. They're trying to get me to press charges still. I'm like, nah, I'm not doing it, dude. I'm not doing it. It's not happening. I'm going to smoke a cigarette because my nerves, just telling the story. I've never shared it with anybody, and I'm sharing it with you, everybody that's listening on my channel, anyone that's tuning in. I'm telling you. But it's something that needs to be told, and you'll understand why. So he's up there living, not for very long, short time. He's trying to, or he would call, you know, his girlfriend Carrie, trying to come back. Said he was clean, which he wasn't. I never heard a word from him ever again. So he calls her, and then he starts threatening her, and that he's going to kill her. And he's going to, and this, that, and the other. So I don't know. It was like maybe a week goes by. And I think it was about a week. Yeah. A week goes by. And he shows up at her daughter's house in Gardnerville, Gardnerville was like, I want to say it was an hour and a half, 2 hours away, something like that. Maybe it was longer. I think it was about 2 hour drive. And he shows up at her house and says, hey, and he pulls up in this van, And he tells her daughter, hey, can I stay here? I need a place to stay. Which, her mom had already told her, like, what all was going on. And she's like, no, you can't stay here. And he's like, well, can I put my stuff in your garage? And she said, no, you can't do that. No. And he said, he's like, you're lucky. You're going to end up just like Ryan, laying face down in the backyard with a bullet in the back of your head. He tells her daughter that. But he did leave. He got in the van and he left. She calls her mom instantly, says, hey, Billy was just here. He was acting crazy. He's threatening me, and said that his best friend and who he was staying with, they was laying face down in the backyard. So instantly his girlfriend calls me and asks me and says, look, this is, what he said. This is what happened. And he was driving a red minivan, and I don't know what to do. And I said, you need to call Ryan's phone. You need to call and see if, he's just, what's going on. Because I said, he's acting crazy. You don't know what's going on. Call Ryan. So I go over her house. She had called him. He ain't answering his cell phone. So all day long, never answers his cell phone. And I think it was in the evening. I said, you're going to have to call the cops and have them do a well check on him, because he lives in Reno. He's all the way down in Gardnerville. And he said what he said, that he was laying face down in his backyard. So she calls the police and makes a report to do a well check in Reno to the Washoe County. I think it was Washoe County Sheriff's. And I don't know. I think she called the police department, the local police department, which relayed the message about him being possibly killed or in his backyard. We don't know if it's true. It's just what he said. So they go do a well check. There's nobody there. The house is all trashed. All the guns are gone. Like his friend was an avid fisherman and hunter, and he had guns and a gun case, one of those wooden with the glass, and he had all his different rifles in there and all kinds of guns. He had all kinds of guns. And the guns were gone. The house was gone. So they're looking around, and sure enough, they find his best friend laying in the backyard with a bullet in the back of his head. So now they don't have enough evidence, because, it was awfully weird that she could tell exactly what he told her daughter is what she told the police. And that's exactly what they found. And it was kind of weird, because they're like, well, how did this person know? Because Reno's an hour away. How'd this person know this information? So I'm at home, and it was my days off. And she calls me up, and she's like, look, the detectives are here from Reno. And, because she had told me what they found, that they found him and the bullet in the back of his head and this, that, and the other. And so that the detectives want to talk to me. So at this point, he killed his best friend. He almost, I was lucky that I was alive because of what he did with me, that he didn't pull the trigger on me. I don't know why not. God was watching over me. Is all I can say. He was watching over me. And 100%, I believe that. And I'm a man of God, so I'm a man of faith. And I believe wholeheartedly that's God was watching out for me that day. Because look at what happened to his best friend that he grew up with. So the detectives want to talk to me. I go over there and they said, look, man, we don't have enough evidence. Even though he said what he said, we don't know if he did it. You know what I mean? It's kind of hearsay still. We need you to file a report for what happened to you, where he put the gun to your head. And, so I did, because once I found out his best friend, that happened to him, and I knew what he's capable of doing at this point. You can call me a snitch, you can do whatever you want, but yeah, it was the right thing to do before anybody else got hurt or killed, because he was on a rampage. And so he had ditched the van and he had that scooter in the van, and he took off on the scooter. And so they were looking for him. The marshals were looking for him, the U.S. Marshals. So anyways, I filed a report. They had him on 4 felony charges against me and then a misdemeanor. It was enough to get a warrant to arrest him so they could get him off the street. And that's all I wanted, was get him off the street. Then they could figure out what happened. So the U.S. Marshals are out looking for him. Everybody's out looking for him. They finally found him. And he had that warrant for what he had done to me. And that was to get him, arrested. And then they could, while they're investigating their homicide. And so he gets picked up. They call me up. They said, hey, we picked him up. We picked your cousin up, and he's in the Douglas County Jail, which is in Gardnerville, or down in that way. And they said he's getting transferred to Churchill County Jail, which is the city I lived in, because of that warrant. So after that warrant, after they transferred him to the Churchill County Jail, it had been a couple of days since he had been arrested, and they said that he hung himself in the cell. Now, the part that doesn't make sense is it was a 2-man cell, and I know that jail's tiny. Well, they built a new jail after that, but the old jail was tiny, and it had the old time bars. You know what I mean? So you can see right through it. It wasn't the newer style doors. So they could see in all the cells. And what didn't make sense is he had a cellie. And his cellie said he slept. He didn't hear nothing. And the investigation into that was he just committed suicide. He hung himself, which I tried to get information. They wouldn't give me any information because they said it's an open investigation, other than that he committed suicide. I said, man, that just doesn't make sense. I mean, it does make sense that maybe he's like, after he got the drugs and shit out of his system, that, he realized what he had done to me, what he had done to his girlfriend, what he'd done to his best friend, and couldn't live with himself. That's one theory. The other theory is he told his cellmate, I'm going to kill you if you say anything. Just act like you're sleeping. You didn't see nothing. You didn't hear nothing. And that's more like probably what he did. But they never did close up that, or they never did come out with a final on that investigation, other than they said he committed suicide. Where was the COs? You didn't hear that. The cellie didn't hear that. I mean, come on. That shit just doesn't, no. It don't jive. So, and that was the end of the story. That's the way it ended. And a very sad story for somebody I looked up to most of my life. And it ended that way, tragically. And what he had done, I just could never believe that. You know what I mean? So I'm going to share some of the stories right here. And I'm just going to let me get myself in front here. And I'm going to make myself smaller so we can open up this. I'm trying to get all this together for you guys. So detectives identify victim of homicide in Spanish Springs, March 14, 2013. On Tuesday, March 12th, 2013, at 5:54 p.m., Washoe County Sheriff deputies respond to a report of a homicide at 160 Mia Drive in Spanish Springs. Deputies were notified by the Fallon Police Department. Yeah, see, that was the local police. That a caller had claimed there was a deceased male in the backyard of that address. Deputies responded to the scene and located an unidentified deceased male in the backyard. No other persons were located at the scene. The deceased male has now been identified as Ryan Petty, 47-year-old white male who owned the residence at 160 Mia Drive. Preliminary findings from the autopsy indicate the cause of death was a gunshot wound. I already knew all that. I already told you guys that. And then the final report, blah, blah, blah. Based on the initial call to the Fallon Police Department, sheriff's detectives have located and interviewed the caller, which was my cousin Carrie, his girlfriend. Based on that and other information, detectives identified a person of interest in Gardnerville. The man identified as Billy Stanberry, a 48-year-old male who lived with Ryan at 160 Mia Drive. That was my cousin Billy. Stanberry was located after a warrant for his arrest was issued by a Fallon judge for charges stemming from an incident in February that is unrelated to the current homicide investigation. Following an interview with Washoe County Sheriff, Stanberry was booked on the warrant by the Douglas County Sheriffs. He remains in custody in Douglas County, but yeah, they transferred him. They located the minivan belonging to Ryan, which was one of Ryan's cars, abandoned at a Smith's supermarket. Had California plates, is related to the homicide, and was sealed and transported to the Washoe County Sheriff's for processing. Detectives believe the van was abandoned at the Smiths on Monday, March 11th, between the hours of 7 a.m. and 11 a.m. However, could have been missing from the scene since Sunday, March 10th. The person who abandoned the van may have left the parking lot. There he talked about they got my cousin. Left the parking lot on a gas-powered scooter. Anyone who saw the van or its occupants or man or scooter around that time, and then it just goes on. So there's that one. Hold on. That's right. There's several stories, but they're all the same. But this one is, this one here is the actual story. Why did that not open up for me? Okay. For some reason, that doesn't want to open up for me. I'm going to try this again. There we go. All right. Inmate found dead at CC Jail, which is the Churchill County Jail. That's my cousin. It says 48-year-old inmate who was a person of interest in a Reno murder was found dead Wednesday in his cell at the Churchill County Jail. Sheriff Ben Trotter said, they didn't even get his name right. Billy Stanberry of Fallon was found hanging from the bars of his cell at about 2:30 a.m. on Wednesday. I'm telling you, this jail's super tiny, and the CO's right there. Trotter said the cause of death would be not known until autopsy. He was booked into county jail on Monday after Douglas County Sheriff's arrested the Fallon man in Gardnerville on March 13th on an active warrant. Then they just go into details. And this is where I had to press charges against him, because he was booked on 4 felony, 1 misdemeanor charges from an incident in February, according to court records. He was booked for 4 felonies, including assault with a deadly weapon, burglary with possession of a firearm, attempt to commit a robbery with a deadly weapon, and an ex-felon not to possess a firearm. He was also charged with aim a firearm at a human being, a gross misdemeanor. Says the ex-felon charge stemmed from a previous conviction out of California, Superior Court in Sacramento. Stanberry was accused of entering my home, South Nevada Street, pointing a Ruger at Robert's forehead and temple, and demanding payment for. He was saying he wanted money for his girlfriend, but he really said it was for himself. I don't know how that got in there. Stanberry was being held in lockdown for 72 hours, had a cash bond of $88,000. The lockdown period, Trotter said all new inmates and allow deputies to establish any possible risk associated with an inmate. Trotter said Stanberry's cellmate was sleeping at the time of death, and inmates were moved from the area to avoid trauma and panic. The jail was also locked down. And then it just goes on. But I pretty much told you the whole story. But yeah, they never, like they said right here, his cellmate was asleep. You know what I mean? But yeah, I would have never done I would have took him out if you know what I mean? If I ever saw him again. I never did see him again. Unless he was obviously clean. But that's the story, man. I know it's a long story, but that's a personal experience, man, it's a sad situation. And nothing's ever come about. Like, they never said they wouldn't. I tried to talk to the sheriff's department, to the sheriff about that. Like, where was the CO? Where was, they didn't give me no information. And so I had to relay this to my other cousins, their sisters, all my other cousins, family members. But I never told the whole story from, like I'm telling you right now, of exactly what happened. So, anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed the story. I mean, it's in the past. It is what it is. But it's a very sad story for me. But I felt like it needed to be shared. And it's an interesting story. If anybody's ever dealt with this with their own family members, I'm sure you have. There's people out there that have. And with that, that's the end of this video. And it's good to be back home. And thank you for stopping by. And we will see you on the next one. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. Hit that notification bell to all, so you'll be notified of all new content that I'm putting out. We'll see you on the next video. Peace out.